This is Season 6 of the Team Roping Journals podcast, The Score. With over 2 million downloads, this is where team ropers talk. Hey everyone, this is Chelsea Schaefer. Welcome to The Score. Today is a special episode. It's not one of our usuals. It is an episode where I get to introduce you to Taylor Vollin, who is our new digital editor over here at the Team Roping Journal. Taylor has been with us for, as we'll talk about in the interview, almost 2 months now, and she's going to be taking over some of the podcasting responsibilities. She will be doing the short score every week with lots of roping updates and interviews with the guys that she talks to for stories that she's writing throughout the week. And then she will also be dropping you a roping tip every Saturday, brought to you by roping.com like we did last year. We've been a little bit behind on those, and I know people miss them. They're one of our most listened to little tidbits that we do. So we will bring the roping tips back on the score now that we have Taylor on the team to do them. So this is a conversation that I wanted to have with Taylor, so you all get to know a little bit about who it is that is jumping into the podcast and who it is that is writing so many of the stories that you all get to read every single week over at the Team Roping Journal. All right, so this is our interview with Taylor Vollin. Okay, Taylor. Taylor is our new, what title did we give you? Are you the new?
Digital editor.
Digital editor. Okay, great. This position has had different titles over the years, so I wasn't sure. Okay, Taylor is our new digital editor, and Taylor will be taking over episodes of the short score and episodes of roping tips, and I am sure when she is at an event and I am not, she will also be recording the regular score. Or hopefully someday you'll just take over everything and I don't have to be important anymore. Not important as it is, but don't have to be necessary. So, Taylor, give us the background on where you came from and how you ended up at this job. How did you get stuck with us?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Salinas, California. I was raised in a rodeo family. My dad rodeoed professionally. He rode bareback horses for a long time, and now he's a judge in the PRCA, actually. And so me rodeoing was kind of inevitable. Like I said, just been around it so long and so much. And so, I started rodeoing when I was a little girl, junior rodeos, junior high school, college rodeo. And, I started out doing every event, as most girls and kids do, where they try to go for the all around at high school rodeos and stuff. But like my sophomore year, I think, was when I kind of got tired of, I guess you'd call them like the speed events, like the barrels and the poles. I was like, I just don't have it in me anymore. And I breakawayed and I headed and I tied goats. And that's what I did, when I got to college and stuff too. But so that's kind of where my tie into like the rodeo world is. Definitely deep roots in it. After I graduated high school, my senior year, I decided to surprise everybody and move to the other side of the country. And I went to a little junior college in Mississippi, East Mississippi Community College. And I studied communication while I was there, got my Associate of Arts, and college rodeoed for 2 years. I lived with my coaches, Morgan and Wes Goodrich. I hold them pretty high in my eyes. They're pretty good people, but getting off track.
No, that's good.
When I graduated from there, I decided I wanted to stay out, down south. And I also kind of decided to take a break from competing. I wanted to just kind of experience college as a kid, which I never saw myself doing because I loved rodeoing so much and everything about it. Some might say I was throwing my sucker in the dirt too. I just kind of needed a mental break. I'm not going to lie. Sophomore year was rough. But yeah, so I just went to college. I went to Mississippi State University and got my bachelor's in agricultural communications with a minor in print digital journalism. And when I was in Starkville, that's really kind of where I got to put my degree to use. I did quite a few short-term internships, like event-based, like working at the NFR and the American a couple of times. And then I also worked for my college's, the College of Ag and Life Sciences as a student writer and a social media intern. And so, not college rodeo ended up being a blessing because I got a lot of work experience that, brought me to where I am today, I would say. And then I now live in Marshall, Missouri. Life after graduating in 2021, life and a boyfriend brought me to the Midwest. So, yeah, and I've been with you guys for what, month and a half now?
Month and a half. I think, did you start? You started March 6th, which was
Mm-hmm.
also the first day of my first vacation in a very long time.
Yeah.
So I guess I will remember that day as a great day for me. Now tell me, so what, okay, kind of rewind because I had like 15 questions while you were talking. So first of all, your dad is a judge.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that. How did you go to a lot of rodeos with him in California, and or where does he judge? Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, he judges a lot on the West Coast. It's kind of funny actually. Was it 2021, I think? For some reason over the summer he had like a handful of Utah and Oregon rodeos for some reason, which Oregon makes sense. He was not complaining about either of those, but like Ogden and gosh, I can't think of what the other one was. It doesn't matter. But yeah, primarily like the West Coast, staying over there. I wouldn't say I went to a lot of rodeos with him judging as a kid. I think now I go with him more often. Like I use that as an excuse to go home. Like last summer he judged Reno, and so I said, well, I want to go to Reno. Like that's going to be fun. And so I spent the week with him. But I know judges get a lot of they're under fire a lot. And it happens. It's life. It's part of being in a sport. But I love him being a judge. Like it is just so fun. Judges gossip. I hate to say it, but they do. So I get to hear some of the best stories. And a lot of his friends that he judges with have become like family to us. And so I have no complaints over him being a judge. And it's fun to hear his stories. I think he missed rodeoing and stuff. And so he never really left the industry, if that makes sense. But I think he's the happiest I've seen him, I would say, him getting a judge. Because he's now like an A judge, so he goes a lot. A lot. But
Yeah, if he judged Reno, that's one of the top tier ones, so that makes sense.
That one was fun. I have no complaints. I wish he'd get it again.
Okay, so why Mississippi then? Why did you go across the country? Most people like go west for college. I guess I'm from the East Coast, so everybody wants to go west for college. Why did you want to go east? Far east.
And to make it worse, I caused a lot of drama, I will say. My dad might not be happy about me throwing that out there, but I did, because I got into some pretty good schools back home, like Cal Poly and Fresno, which is probably horrible of me to admit. But, I don't know what it was. My senior year, I just wanted to get out. It was nothing against my family or my friends, but I think I just kind of wanted a change of scenery, a change of pace. I'd rodeoed with the same kids forever, and no offense to them, but just, new faces, something different. And the coaches at EMCC are really good family friends. My dad grew up with Wes, the husband. My mom even knew him in college, and she didn't even rodeo. And so they come out every summer for like a month. When their daughter, Shadow, who's like 5 years younger than me, when she was a little girl, they'd come out for even longer. But they've always it started out as a joke of like, oh, you should come rodeo for us. You should come rodeo for us. And it was, like I said, it was kind of a joke. Well, senior year, I just got the itch to leave. And I was like, who would probably take me in? The Goodriches. And so they offered me a scholarship. And yeah, I just kind of decided to go on a whim.
Very good. And so did you team rope in college too, or just breakaway?
Yeah, I had it a little bit. Breakaway was my focus, that and the goat time. But my coaches are hardcore team ropers, especially her husband, Wes. And so there was no escaping that. The fact that I knew how to swing a head rope and enjoyed it, even if I didn't want to, Wes was not going to let me not enter. I don't know that it did us any good. But
very good. So now talk about your degree. Like I can think of some of my favorite classes in college, and that was 13 years ago. What were some of your favorite areas of study?
Definitely journalism. Any of my journalism classes were great. My intro to journalism class, I had a professor, that was actually kind of intimidating. I was so scared of him, but he was so cool and just so straight to the point. Like there was no BSing, you know what I mean? And I appreciated that. And I feel like that gave me a good basis on knowing how to write well. And then actually my last year of college, his journalism ethics class, another one that I was like, oh my God, I have to take this. And it was so fun and so cool getting to like just hear things that you never knew and like putting it to practice and like thinking about, okay, am I doing things in an ethical way, in a right way? I also took a lot of broadcast, like television broadcast classes, and I loved those. Those were so
You're
fun.
good. Maybe you can help me with my vocal fry that they tell me that I have on this podcast if you've done some broadcasts. No broadcast classes here, none.
I don't know that it helped because I mumble so bad. My sister gets after me all the time. But they were just so fun because it was something I feel like you watch people on TV and like reporters and anchors, and you're like, that's so cool. I wish I could do that. And actually, during an internship, the woman I was working under was like, you're going to do our Facebook Live. And I was like, oh, I have to be in front of a camera. That's terrifying. But I loved it. I enjoyed every minute of it. And so when I had the opportunity, comms, you get to kind of go into take whatever classes you want, study the different fields. I took those classes and just enjoyed everything about it. It was cool. If I didn't work for you guys, that's what I would be doing probably. But this was my dream job, so I'm perfectly content.
I remember when we interviewed you, one thing you said was like that you're like, oh no, I'm planning to get this job. I'm planning that this is going to be my next job. Like, I was like, oh, that is awesome. You just called your shot. And I mean, Gabby and I were like, yeah, it is going to be your next job. Like, you're right. Because we were pretty convinced by that point, by the time we talked to you. Talk about why you want to do this job.
A lot of it I think has to go back to my background. Like I said, I just am so enthralled by the way of life we live and stuff, not even just competing, but just the people you meet. I mean, there's so much I could say that I won't even get into it all. But, I remember growing up reading like the Spin to Win magazines, which this is so embarrassing. I don't even know why I'm saying this on this, but like I didn't like magazines like themselves for some reason. I don't know. It was weird. But so I remember reading them online. I'm in that age, that generation where we read a lot of magazines online. Yeah. Uh-huh. But I remember reading like the articles and stuff and just thinking, and at that time I didn't even know that I wanted to write. I for some reason thought I wanted to do medicine, and thank God I changed my mind. But reading the articles.
Your bank account is not going to thank you in 20 years that you changed your mind, just so you know. Okay.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yep.
But I'd read these articles, and it was like people you look up to, your idols, and like these big name guys and, female ropers and stuff. And it just felt like I knew them. Like it felt like I could go up to them at a rope or a rodeo and talk to them, which I was too shy to ever do at the time. And it also made their accomplishments, it seemed like a bigger deal, but also something I myself could accomplish if I wanted to. And I just always had that in the back of my mind. Like every time I'd see something by y'all that was, that was the thought that I had about you guys. And so when, I was kind of my way into wanting to write, I guess, kind of going on a tangent. My like junior year of high school, like I said, I didn't even know what I wanted to do at that point. And we had these insane senior projects we started my junior year, like I said, because they were crazy research projects. And I did one on kind of the future of like the Western industry, not just rodeo, but like ranching and ag. I tied it all together because I think we are pretty, kind of a tight unit. And growing up on the West Coast, where we deal with like animal rights activists and things other states probably haven't had to worry about just yet, it was always, preached to me that people don't understand why we do what we do, why we love the sport and the way of life. And so you have to be careful about how you tell other people about it and how you advocate for it. And I always knew that, but it wasn't until I was presenting this 13-page research paper to a panel of judges that had no clue about cattle, rodeo, none of it. And as they're asking me these questions, it was like the light bulb went off. I was like, this is what my dad and my mentors have been telling me about for years. And I was like, I think I want to be an advocate. I want to be one that kind of shows other people why it's such a great way of life to, be a part of, compete in, and just, yeah. And I always liked to write. I didn't know that I had a passion for it. But it was the two connected then. I was like, advocate. I like writing. I like what you guys do. And so it was always kind of in the back of my mind that the end goal would be to probably, be working alongside you guys, the writers that I always looked up to.
Oh, thank you. sure it was mostly Kendra though, especially being from the West Coast. I cannot blame you if that Kendra was your hero. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, for sure. But you were in there too. Don't worry.
Oh yeah. Thank you for reminding me that I am now old enough that you were growing up and I may or may not have been your hero. If you would have just said that Kendra was your hero, that would have been just fine. So, okay, it's been almost 2 months that you've been here. What do listeners maybe not know about what it's like to work at the Team Roping Journal?
It is, I mean, full force 24/7. I feel like I didn't realize, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I think people see like the social media presence, and they think that it's just, oh, I'm going to get up and post something on social media. And like sometimes it is kind of that. Like if I'm just being honest, it's like, crap, I need to get something online, which sounds horrible. Don't judge me for that.
It's true.
But
it's true.
it is. It's like, I mean, it's thought provoking. People don't think social media is, I feel like. And, it's just a lot of taking the time out of your day to kind of think of, okay, what hasn't been posted in a while? What do people need to hear? Keeping up to date with what's going on. That's another thing I don't think people realize. I mean, maybe they do, like since you've been in the industry for so long and in this position, the wealth of knowledge that you have to have, like especially you, like I'm every single day when you tell me like, hey, so-and-so is riding a different horse, make sure to include that. I'm like, I wouldn't have even thought of that. Like just the wealth of knowledge you have to have is
scary,
insane.
Weird, wasted space in my brain. Sometimes. But the amount of information like that is only useful in one job. That's why I will be here for the rest of my life. No, I get it.
But
it's true though.
Yeah. That's something
our team
people don't understand.
Yeah, I don't think anybody understands like how hard we try. It sounds pathetic, but like we are in constant communication from the time we wake up in the morning till the time we go to bed. Like just making sure that everything's handled and we're not missing anything. And I don't, when I started, it's funny. Well, when I started, I remember the rodeos that like Bob used to cover and Kendra used to cover.
Yep. Yeah.
And it would be, there was nothing covered online unless I was making like a Facebook post, a rudimentary Facebook post back in 2010. It would be, the magazine, we would write about those rodeos in the magazine once a month. So the coverage of the rodeos would come out 2 months after it actually happened. Now people watch it live on the Cowboy Channel, and when we get a story up the next day, we have to be different enough from just the play-by-play of it to make it interesting. So it's certainly, since you were a kid reading about it and Spin to Win, it's changed a lot.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, certainly changed a lot. Today's episode of The Score is brought to you by the Seen Through Horses campaign. 1 in 4 people experience mental health issues each year. This spring, you can help support mental health awareness and support nonprofit organizations changing lives through horses by joining the 2nd annual Seen Through Horses campaign. Join us May 1st through 31st, 2023 during Mental Health Awareness Month for the Seen Through Horses campaign, and together we can make a much-needed difference for mental health globally. To learn more, visit horsesformentalhealth.org. That's horsesformentalhealth.org. Your dad's a judge, and there will be times, I mean, we've written about crossfire calls and appeals and all kinds of things. How do you plan to cover that kind of stuff?
Thankfully, my dad is very, what's the word? I think he's the coolest guy out there, but my dad is facts are facts. You messed up, you messed up. Like, he's not one that, say it's him that makes a bad call. Like, feelings are almost detached, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know how to really describe it. Like, it's, you messed up. Okay, you messed up. Like, take ownership of it. So at least I'm around a judge that's very much, it is what it is. And I think just kind of trying to remember that at the end of the day, it's telling the story for what it is, telling the truth. That's kind of the way that I plan to go about it, if I am. That, like, feelings do need to be detached at times, And thankfully, like I said, like, I have a dad that's not going to get offended if I have to say, hopefully I never have to say something about him. But, if I do have to talk about the judges making, a wrong call or a tough call, like my dad is going to understand. We have this conversation a lot, actually. And I might be, again, going off on tangents. I ramble a lot, I will say.
You're good.
We have a conversation about how rodeo is so different from other major sports if you think about it. Because if an official was to make a bad call in the NFL, he would be talked about probably that same night on ESPN. You know what I mean? Like, you are under scrutiny in professional sports with every decision you make, pretty much. And in rodeo, like, not that people need to be under fire 24/7, but there is kind of a little bit of a blanket almost, I guess you could say, where we kind of, I hate to say baby because that's not the word I would use, but we're a little bit softer where people make mistakes and we don't really talk about it. And to each their own, whether they want to say that's good or bad, but we have that conversation a lot where my dad's like, we have to be tough. Like, that's just part of the job. People are going to not agree with our calls and it sucks. You never want to make the wrong call because, for him, he rodeoed professionally. He knows what it's like to be screwed. I mean, he never wants to take money away from the right person. But yeah, the whole being under fire and having other people having other opinions and stuff, it's not going to be an issue, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. And I would say that one thing, I grew up I went to college with a really traditional journalistic background, with the hopes of being an investigative reporter and, journalism ethics. We learned a lot of hardcore ethics that I'm pretty firm on when we're doing stories that require strong investigative skills. Mm-hmm. I want us to do great journalism at all times. But at the same time, this is a very small industry. We're not the NFL where there's thousands of reporters that are trying to cover it on any given day. There's just a couple of us, and there's just a couple of judges, and there's, the leadership of the PRCA, and there's the top 15 in the world, essentially. So we have to walk a line all the time. And honestly, I had an awesome first boss in Bob Welch who always did the right thing. I know he would say he didn't, but he was very clear and he lived in his values. And so just being intentional about trying to do what is right and what is fair and do a good job, I think we've always been fine that way because Bob set that precedent and Kendra set that precedent first, and we try to keep ourselves out of trouble doing a good job, I guess. Yeah. We're trying to screw anybody ever. You're just always trying to tell the truth, and okay, so are you gonna get to rope at all? I know we're busy, but and I know you stepped away from competing, but are you back at all?
On and off. When I was finishing up my bachelor's and I'd go home for the summer, I would, jackpot or enter amateur rodeos every now and then. One summer I feel like I got back in the swing of it, I don't want to say full time, but like I used to be. I would love to. I really, really want to. I feel like the only thing, and excuses, I don't even have my horse out here right now. Which I date a calf roper, so I definitely have nice horses I could be riding and should be because he's very supportive and wants me to rope. But yeah, hopefully I'll be entering more this year. Would be nice to get to enter again.
Yeah, let me know how that works out for you. Me too. I hope so too.
Yeah.
But I hope we do. Now there's enough of us. We have a big team now compared to when it was just me and Caitlin and Gabby part-time. Now we've got a big team. We all kind of tag in and help each other. So, okay. Is there anybody, who was your first interview? Do you remember who the first team you interviewed was?
Well, there was my trial story, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Well, I want to talk about that because I don't think I ever told you the full story on why I picked that. So okay, so for anybody who doesn't, of course nobody knows, Taylor, when we were interviewing her, we had her write a story on the arena records at the timed event. And she had to figure out what they were. And you found that out from Lane Tiltram probably, or somebody at the Lazy.
Yeah, he was so great. Yeah.
Lane is great. He's a important element of everything we do here too. So you had to find out what those were. And then you had to call the record holders. And I didn't give you any of their numbers, I don't think.
No. And I was too scared
Okay.
to ask. I was like, I have
That's
to do
hilarious.
this on my
It
own.
was on purpose. Yes, that was on purpose. So tell me who they were and how you found that story or how you did that story.
Yeah, it was, oh, gosh. Well, the steer wrestling was a little difficult. Thankfully, you gave me advice on that one because that one was Leo Camarillo. So we just used, I think you told me just to use a quote that Kendra had used when he passed, I think it was.
Yeah, it was an old quote. Yeah.
Actually, though, I think it was that year. That run is on YouTube, so I was able to watch it. So that was kind of helpful in like getting the feel for how badass that was. And it's just if you know anything about Leo, the fact that he holds that record is cool. But again, getting off topic, Kate swore in the calf roping. Scott Snedeker, I can't say his name hardly very well, which is embarrassing.
Okay.
The trip,
Snicker, you're good.
the tripping, and then Spencer Mitchell and Jade Corkle in the team roping. Not together, of course, obviously, but yeah.
Who was the hardest to get a hold of out of that group? I have my guess.
Honestly, they were all easy. I started off with, I was shocked. I was nervous. I had to give myself a pep talk before every single one of them. But I didn't know the best way to go about it. Like, I didn't know, like I said, I wrote in college, but it was talking to professors. So it was very scheduled, like emails. When it comes to calling and texting, I didn't know at the time, like, how you guys did it. So I think I actually, like, cold called Cade Swore and Scott. And so they both answered the very first time, and they were so nice. Poor Cade was, I think, like, welding fence. And he was like, hang on, let me tell somebody to turn that machine off. And I was like, oh, my God, what am I doing? Jade was hard, but not to his fault. It was... I kept getting, like, people that I'd asked for phone numbers. They were old phone numbers. So I think I had, like, two different people that I texted. They're like, who is Jade? And I'm like, oh, God. But, yeah, him and Spencer were both easy, too. Spencer's from California. Not that I, like, know Spencer, but my dad knows him pretty well. So that one was pretty easy. Yeah, Jade was a cool one for me. This is kind of a backstory. So, and it could also go onto a tangent. My family and I lost our house to a fire my junior year of high school back in 2015, and we didn't even know Jade. Like, I wouldn't be able to go up to him in person and say, hey, you know what I mean? Because, like, he wouldn't know who I was. But my dad kind of knew him from judging and stuff, and Jade, very quietly, like, it's not like anybody hardly knows it, but Jade had, I think it was Cinch. He worked with Cinch to have, like, 200 items of clothing or something like that. Maybe that's an exaggeration, awesome. But a crap ton of clothes donated to us within, like, a couple of days. And it was kind of one of those, like, I don't want to say life-changing, but it's something we'll talk about till we die. You know what I mean? Like, that was this guy that barely knew us, had no clue, just decided to donate all this clothes to us. And so it was kind of a cool full circle moment for me. And I brought it up to him, like, you have probably no clue who I am, but I think very highly of you, and thank you forever for what you did to us. But so that story ended up meaning a lot to me, that I got to, finally talk to him and thank him for what he did. But yeah.
Well, that is special because, so I'm not going to lie, when I had that idea and I was like, okay, we need somebody really good for this job. We need somebody who knows how to use their resources. So that was kind of like the perfect story because you were going to have to figure out all those phone numbers. You have to get a hold of all those guys. And when I looked at the list of guys, I'm like, this isn't the easiest list of guys to get to call you back, to get to answer the phone to begin with. So complete props to you that you got those guys to answer. Very impressive.
I was stoked when you gave me the assignment, one, just to have the assignment, but two, it was I thought it was a cool story, and it was funny though. I was so excited for like 5-10 minutes, and then I was so negative. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get a hold of all of these guys. And I think it was Roy, my boyfriend, I think I was with him, and he was like, do you hear yourself? Like, no, that's not the way you think about this. Like, you have got to be positive. You're going to handle it. And you gave me like an entire weekend. So I don't think you set me up for success, I feel like, on that part.
That's awesome that you feel that way because I like things. You know how we are. We try to turn stories around as fast as we can. Lillian's at the U.S. Finals this week writing 3 stories a day. She's got her stories filed within an hour of talking to the roping winners. So we operate really fast, but that's a very hard adjustment for people to make. Oh, yeah. So I was very impressed. That was, as soon as we got it back, I was like, okay, let's get her hired. She needs to start now. So we were stoked about that. is there anybody you haven't written about yet or haven't talked to or interviewed that you want to? You can have if it's on my task list, you can have it. But who do you want to talk to that you haven't got to yet?
Everyone. I don't know, Chelsea. I don't know that I have a specific person, partially because it still feels like a whirlwind. You know what I mean? Like some days I have to I know it's cheesy, but pinch myself and be like, you're legitimately doing this. Like this is your life now. Thank God it is. But I don't know that I've had a moment to be to set a list of the people that I've wanted to. I will say though, I did get to talk to Derek and Coulter. Was it last week?
Yeah,
that one was
I knew
cool.
that was. I was gonna assume that's everybody's answer, which is deserved. Like they deserve that. They are the best. Yeah,
that was fun.
Okay,
and then my first actual story, once I got hired, was Ren and Jeremy, and that one was fun. Those were two good ones to kind of talk about. Houston, that was a little intimidating, but those two made it easy for sure.
Jeremy makes it very. I mean, Ren's fine. No, sorry, Ren. Ren's great. But Jeremy is he's talking to Buddha. He's like the cowboy Buddha. So I love talking to Jeremy. So that I'm glad I didn't realize that was your first story. I didn't remember that was your first story. That's good. Well, and what's your travel schedule like? Where are people gonna know that you're gonna be physically at writing stories from, without no stalkers or anything? Not weird, nobody go look you up. But
I don't know
what's on your agenda?
I go to Corpus Christi next for the WCRA in May, and where do we have me going after that? I'll be at the college finals. We talked about maybe me.
The college finals, and then you're going to be at the NFR Open in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, and then I'll go home for Salinas.
Yes, and Salinas, and then there will be lots of video shoots at people's houses.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, those are the things that I am excited about, which I love doing those too, but I've done lots of them, and my child would like me to be a good junior rodeo mom this summer.
Aww.
So I'm excited for you to get to do some video shoots in the next couple months, so we'll figure those out.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Thank you so much for listening to The Score this week. We will be back here next week. Taylor will be here with the short score and a roping tips episode, and then I will be back on May 11th with a regular episode of The Score.